welcome to Behind the Beer, where we go behind the scenes to discover the people and roles of producing the product we all love, craft beer. Now, here is your host, Ernest Stevenson.
Thank you, Emily. We're here today at Petty Thieves Brewing with owner, operator. You do just about everything, right, Ted?
Everything except make the beer.
There you go. Ted Rosenau. All right. Tell us a little bit about your journey in craft beer and how Petty Thieves came to be.
Yeah, it was when I started in the working world, I started as an engineer, as a lot of future brewery owners do. So it's a road heavily trod. But I've discovered, thanks to a friend of mine, that you could make beer at home. And back then it was, stovetop in a pot and boiled over and made a sticky mess on the stove. And the first batches were absolute trash.
And your wife yells at you.
Oh man. Yeah. Why is the stove sticky? And you just immediately got the bug. The way my mind works is, wanting to kind of understand how things work, how the world works.
Right.
In all facets. Like, it started with physics and engineering. And then, since it's, there's just different seasons where, like, I want to tackle, like, how do I understand economics or art, or in this case it was brewing. Mm-hmm. And started, getting the kits from the local homebrew store and playing with bottles and, using bleach as sanitizer in my bathtub and the whole homebrew thing. Right.
Yeah.
But, at every turn, like, determined to kind of, number one, make beer that I was interested in and liked. And number two, like, always trying to make the best example or an equivalent example of what you could get on a shelf.
Okay. Awesome.
And slowly over time, as happens, the obsession grew, and I grew into all grain because I wanted to better understand, like, how the different malt components, different hops, different yeast strains could all work together, making my own recipes, and just, slowly working towards this idea of, what if I, tried doing this as a living? It'd be super cool. And like, at the time, I was still working. I was still, happy being something of a desk jockey. But, looking at different changes that could be made. And I'd kind of always made a promise with myself that engineering was a good, stable career that would allow me enough free time to kind of pursue passions. That, at some later date, when I felt like, I'd saved up enough or, like, hit enough milestones, that, that's when I would pursue, like, some other passion. So, like, that kind of took different forms over time. I loved mountain biking, so I was like, maybe it'll be a bike shop, maybe it'll be a coffee shop, maybe when I was homebrewing,
entrepreneurial
like, maybe it'll be a brewery. But yes and no, because, like, I don't know, like, I was really, the reason I pursued engineering was it was going to be, like, consistent. Like, I wouldn't have to go out and, like, find my own, money and opportunity. Like, it'd be kind of,
and the risk
just landed on me. Yeah. Right. And it was good enough until it wasn't.
Right.
So, a lot of things kind of pushed fast forward on that. And I slowly came to kind of realize that, like, and part of that, I think, is just, like, maturing. Cause, like, when you're 20, you're going to live forever. Right. But as you get older and you start hearing, and so we're going to take a morbid turn, cause that's the vibe of Petty Thieves.
Yeah.
some of your friends start passing away and like, in various different circumstances, but you're not guaranteed time.
Right.
Right. And get your ass moving towards whatever it is. Right. And that's the founding ethos, here at Petty Thieves. And it's a lot of, whenever I have time to make a meaningful post on Instagram, it's always like, yeah, we're doing this, but also like we're doing this to kind of prove that like whatever it is on your plate, you need to get your ass in gear and start pursuing that.
Yep.
Right. Because whatever you're sitting on, the world needs that.
Absolutely.
So, all of that came together. I had some personal life disasters that kind of reinforced the idea that like, you're coming into the season of change, just embrace change, get after it. And so started taking it seriously, wrote a business plan, started some small fundraising rounds. We're still running on a bootstrap, but got plans cobbled together, DIY everything, and the total timeline. I think we started writing the business plan in like 2014 or 15, and then worked through all of those years looking for real estate, getting design set. And we finally started build out January 2020. So the saws hit the floor like 6 weeks before the shutdowns came.
Yeah.
We signed bank loan payments 3 weeks before the shutdowns came. So all we had to do like during the pandemic was, I guess you don't have to wear a mask to Home Depot. So like, we're just going to like live in Home Depot and then just like be in our little enclave. So there was like 4 of us every day, just like everything you see here, we put here, with our own sweat. So
this space is what I would call extremely eclectic. So what was the concept behind this tap room?
Yeah. So the romantic way to put it is it's our love letter to Charlotte. And like what we mean by that is Charlotte is such an old city. It's an old town. And
you never know it.
And the only way you can know it is by going to the graveyard. And you see headstones from like late 1600s, right? And they're all last name Johnson. So, I mean, Charlotte has had many, many lifetimes, but the evidence of those lifetimes has been completely erased. The only way you can see Charlotte history is in a book. Or, thanks to Tom Hanchett, right? You can hear him speak about Charlotte history, and he's got the archives of the photos of the old trolley lines and the photos of like the old Masonic lodges and all that cool shit that we don't have anymore. Right. So partly that a lot of this is a nod to kind of the turn of the century, and to all the Gen Zers, turn of the century means the late 1800s.
Yeah.
But all these cool places that don't exist anymore, like some of these old, like secret society clubs and like old like cigar lounges, and like where all the decision makers used to go to uptown in these old lounges and like make decisions for the city. And
right.
So the leather and the dark woods and the dark colors, like all of that just kind of brings to life the memories of kind of those kinds of spaces. And then the flip side of that is I've got a deep love for dive bars. Again, which like, Charlotte is barely hanging on to.
Oh, don't we know?
And
thank God for Tommy's.
Yeah. God bless Tommy's and the Beaver and Smoky Joe's. But losing the double door was a really big hit.
Yep.
And I was like, so you put those two ideas together, and then you put in some mysticism and some weird Southern Gothic church. And there you have Petty Thieves.
I know the first time I walked in here and I looked up and I'm like, hey, those are the lights from the church I went to as a kid.
Yep. If we had our first choice of where to put a brewery, it would have been in a church, but there weren't any churches available when we were looking. But yeah, brewery in the church would be badass.
Awesome. So where did the name Petty Thieves come from?
So that was kind of the first, and I'm going to take a step back and talk about process, because talking about process is sexy.
Everybody loves it.
Yes. So I am a born procrastinator. And it wasn't until I learned the term productive procrastination that I really kind of got, awakened to the idea that, I'm not alone. Like, this is how other people think too. So the way productive procrastination works is not to delay any kind of progress on a project until the last minute. The idea is to, start with the things that take the longest first, and start iterating on, put some kind of thought and effort into the idea, giving yourself enough time to forget about it, to rethink it, and that process strengthens the idea. So starting small, starting with my engineer brain that was more accustomed to thinking in concrete terms, was like, okay, like, obviously a brewery needs a name. I want the name to be something bigger than just location or just like beer or just, sorry for all the breweries out there that built their names out of puns, but just something punny, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of spiraled into larger kinds of concepts that would kind of accept all these ideas that I didn't even know it was supposed to hold yet, but I just knew I needed a bigger bag, right? I needed something bigger. So it started with street names and regions and things about Charlotte and stuff like that. And then just slowly kind of expanded into these larger concepts. And so it was a year-long process. I can keep my notes in my pocket and, I'd be driving around town. There's an idea. Let's write it down so I can forget about it. And then I can look at it in a month and be like, no, that name sucks. Or, hey, there's something there, but I hate, I don't like the way that it sounds. Let's work on the way that it sounds, kind of thing. So that, that's the process. But okay. So I know I'm rambling. It's taking a lot of time, but
hey, that's what we do.
So the kind of the imagery behind Petty Thieves is we knew, kind of based on budget and based on kind of look and feel that we were looking for, that we were going to be on the fringe, which is not a new idea. There's tons of breweries that, again, because of budgets, they end up on kind of the fringes. And so, it's kind of romantic imagery about images, what does it kind of look like being on the fringes, on the frontier, and the kind of camaraderie that can kind of bring. And
right.
So kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of, a band of bandits or whatever, just posted up on a campfire outside of town, and just Petty Thieves, it's just the kinship that happens around
right
that, and it's kind of self-deprecating. It's because
there's thick as thieves,
or there's I think it's a Uncle Tupelo song about We're all criminals waiting to be caught. It's like, yeah, we're like, that's all of us. Like we're all Petty Thieves is the everyman.
Yeah.
So settled on the name. And then when I was iterating on, okay, well, so like, what does this name mean? And like kind of turning the crystal and looking at it from all sides. At the same time, I was reading Austin Kleon's book, Steal Like an Artist.
Okay, yeah.
And so his premise is, and again, like as soon as I read it, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. The path of any creative is a learning process. We're not born knowing how to talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all we know to do is kind of listen to our these strange people around us that are talking to us, and we kind of absorb language, right? And in the same way, if you're an artist or musician or whatever your creative journey is, the first thing to do is to kind of be aware of the things that make you resonate, and then those kind of become your heroes. But then you don't stop there. You look at who are my heroes' heroes and who are my heroes' heroes. And you're stealing the best ideas, those things that make you resonate.
Right.
And that over time, when you begin to create, when you begin to write songs, or you begin to paint, or whatever the medium is, then it's not imitation. It starts with imitation,
mm-hmm.
but when it's an outpouring, it's a squeezing of the sponge of all these ideas that you've absorbed from all of these people that have made you feel alive.
Right. So
what we kind of trained our bartender to say, so it doesn't take 15 minutes, is
I don't know.
So there's a quote, and this comes out of the Austin Kleon book. There's a quote that's, Picasso may have said it, but it's probably misattributed to Picasso. But anyway, Picasso says, all art is theft. And that sums up the idea that like, there's no such thing as an original idea, which is something that Von Dutch, as problematic as he turned out to be, said, which I really admire. The saying, not the man. Got to be clear. That like, there's no such thing as original idea. Take any ideas from me that you want. Like, I don't own this stuff. I just, I'm plugged into the universe, and it came to me, and you can do the same thing too.
Yeah.
And that's the point. This, like, we're not trying to do anything new. We're trying to, do something out of love, maybe keep something alive out of love. But all we ever do is innovate. Right. And to just put like a final bow on it, that's the story of craft beer, where like there's no such thing as an American craft brewing tradition, right? It's all borrowed from everywhere else. And absolutely. Like all we do here is just like, well, we're going to take, some of these ideas from Germany, we're going to take some of these ideas from Belgium, or we're going to take some of these ideas from, native beers in, parts of Africa or parts of South America, and just kind of put them all together to create, something distinct or interesting or whatever. And that's all the American brewing tradition is. Mm-hmm. So it's a recognition that, like we're not claiming to do anything original here. We're just putting ideas in a blender and making the things that we love and want to share with other people.
Yeah. Awesome. So are you a Charlotte native?
No, close. I'm like, the older I get, the more percentage I gain. So like right now it's probably like around like 80% Charlotte native. Yeah. So North Carolina born, been in the state all but 1 year that I went to Tennessee, which was a mistake. Landed back in Charlotte, but I've been in the Charlotte area since 1990.
Okay.
So longer than any of y'all whippersnappers.
Yeah. Me. I didn't come to 95.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what's a typical day look like for you here?
Oh, man, I don't know what a typical day is. So we're still, I don't know, we're 3 years in, and it still feels like we're starting up. So we're still like running on just a really tight, thin staff, and growing every which way we can grow. Mm-hmm. So we have, like, everybody has like their goals, kind of their directive, and then there's just a whole lot of where can I help, where needs help. So I end up touching a lot of things around this place, trying to. There's another idea that's like, we don't have a captain. We killed the captain. The captain's dead. All we have is a navigator. So I try to be the navigator.
Gotcha.
Or the icebreaker, or trying to kind of make the road smooth ahead of all of the people that we're working with, to try to make it easier or faster to try to get where we're trying to go. So as much as possible, I'm trying to be out front, trying to build awareness, trying to do the marketing, do communications, trying to develop partnerships with other small businesses, with the city, trying to find opportunities with like-minded businesses and people, and attract people here. Mm-hmm. That's my main focus.
Right.
And then in the midst of all that, I'm repairing the HLT for the 5th time, and I'm refilling the glycol chiller on the roof, and doing all of this churn work, maintenance stuff. And
right.
So it's a balance, and every day is different. It's still it's gratifying work, because in a lot of ways it just feels like what I was doing in the garage, just more. Mm-hmm. So it still feels like I'm kind of self-directed and still kind of working for myself in a sense. But I have the supreme luxury of having, people behind me and with me that believe in this project as much as I do.
Nice.
That take it on, and, everybody here just does 110% of.
That's extremely important.
What they need to do. I'm a very, very fortunate, very grateful person with the people that have come alongside, and I've had the pleasure to work with.
Nice. Yeah. Having a team behind you is probably one of the most important things about trying to be successful in anything, is people you surround yourself with. So it's awesome.
Good.
Yeah. So what's this beer that we're drinking?
So this is our Vienna lager. We do this every year. It's called Stuck Between Stations. That's a strong nod to the band, the Hold Steady.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, bands is like, if they're not songs about death, and I don't want to hear about it. Sorry, Justin Bieber.
Yeah. So tell me, what do people most misunderstand about you here at Petty Thieves or in the industry?
Oh, that's a good question. What do they misunderstand? That we're here. Yeah, we're like, we're tucked out of the way. You can't see us from the road. I've added, God, I think I just hung my 6th sign out on the street, just trying to, like, show people that we're back here. A lot of people don't know we have parking. So, like, if if you're in Charlotte and you're listening to this podcast, we have parking. You don't have to like cruise the block in Plaza Midwood and worry about getting booted.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, like we're still like, it feels, we're still loose. We're still kind of putting the wheels on the wagon. It's the metaphor of like jumping out of the plane and assembling your parachute on the way down. All of this is experimental. All of this is trial and error. So maybe the point that I'm sneaking up on is like, if you're expecting a big, shiny, professional brewery production experience, you're not going to find it in here. Cause that's not what we do.
Right.
Yeah, it's more dive bar than it is production brewery, which, I mean, we have ambitions to, have more awareness, and I don't know if like more tap rooms is on the horizon or on the agenda, but like, becoming a larger player, like absolutely, like that's what we're building towards. But it's baby steps. It's, finding a place to start, and then it's like slowly evolving. We used to, we'd laugh about how long it took to actually find a space and how long it took to like get funds together and get plans together. And I found, where did I find it? I don't even know. But at one point, I think Modest Mouse's record label name, their self-started record label name, was called Glacial Pace Records. And I was like, we are Glacial Pace Brewery. Like,
that is slow.
so slow. Intentional, grinding, determined, but slow. And it hasn't really gotten any faster.
That's awesome. So if you could be remembered for one thing in this industry, what would it be?
I would go back to kind of founding principles, and the reason I got into homebrewing in the first place is we strive to try to say it in not competitive terms, because it's not about like who has the most,
right?
But we try to, as much as we can and as best as we can, keep a large variety available of the best quality that we're able to achieve. Because again, we're not competing with other breweries. But yeah, so quality and variety. Uniqueness isn't the right word, but kind of our flavor of beer. And so kind of how that plays out. Our founding brewer, Ryan, who has moved back to home in Michigan, which happened middle of the year this year.
How dare him?
Yeah, that was a sad month.
Yeah.
But our brewing sensibilities were very, very similar. Like when we were in startup, we had another brewer lined up, and he was helping us with startup build out. Build out's the right word. Startup's not the right word. Mm-hmm. And he made it a couple of months in, and then he was getting kind of restless that he wasn't brewing, that he was painting walls and like doing like grouting tile. And he's like, this isn't the work that I signed up for. It's like, well, I get it, but like, we got to be. You got to
get to a certain point before you can brew. Yeah, absolutely.
So he shoved off, and I was like, we're like maybe 2 months from opening, and we don't have a brewer anymore. So I sent out an all call on Facebook. I was like, we're looking for a brewer, and I think I got like maybe a Facebook message from this dude. It's like, hey, like I'm in town and I'm looking for a brewing job. I was like, cool. Like we're always here. Like come on by. And I can still, like right now, I can still picture like, I'm elbow deep and doing something in the hallway, and like this dude is, showing up at like 11 o'clock or whatever, and just like watch him like walk out of the car, bounces onto the patio and like strolls right in. We talk about beer for an hour, and I'm like, this is our guy. Like, I don't know how I don't know how this happened or like how this works, but like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And it was, the way we think about, IPAs, the way we think about even wanting to do saisons. Why make a dead beer style? Mm-hmm. And then he brought, his passions for like doing some even weirder shit, like sour IPAs. Mm-hmm. And at the time I was like, what the is a sour IPA? And, just like, doing in spite of commercial pressures, which again, this is not unique, right? There's a ton of breweries out there that are just like, we're just going to make what we want to make and you guys drink it. And like, we're going to do what we want to do. Yeah. So it was part of that, but it's, all of it came out of this.
I think most start that way.
Yeah. And man, it was the Wild West back then, man. Like we didn't have names for anything. We didn't have like concepts for anything. We were winging it. We got a lead on a truckload of nectarines, and we were just like, it's that old Mitch Hedberg thing of like, the Pringles dudes were supposed to be making tennis balls, and then when the tennis balls were supposed to show up, they got a truckload of potatoes, and the dude from Pringles was like, cut them up. So we got a truckload of nectarines, and Ryan's like, cool, we're going to make a saison out of this. And it was the first beer we ever made, and it was fantastic. What do we want to be known for? I don't know, like experimentation, good experimentation, intentional experimentation. Everything should be hopefully better than good. We've done some fearless stuff in here. There was one, I'm remembering people didn't know what the word meant. And we made, I think it was the last sour IPA we made. And I was like, this is a weird ass beer. We're going for a weird ass name. It's like, I'm not taking any notes. We are calling it Dabbling in Necromancy. And everybody ordering it was like, whoa. I'll take a dabbling. That doesn't mean what I think it means. No, it doesn't. No, it means like speaking with the spirits. Yeah. Yeah. It's not the other word. I don't know what point I was trying to make, but that's the spirit.
You'll be known as weird, but
weird.
Good.
Weird. Yeah, there's the other local beer podcaster, Ryan. I'm forgetting his last name. But he came up to us one of the beer festivals. Maybe it was QCBF. And like he's just like he strolls right up, like hands in the air, just bright grin on his face. And he's just like, Petty Thieves, you guys are weird as hell. And I was like, oh my God, he gets it. He gets it.
Uh,
Oh man.
so, what's the best compliment that y'all received so far? Or was that it?
That could have been it. That could have been it. It's on a daily basis. Like we are, I can't explain it. We have a core kind of group of regulars, and then everybody else is new. Everybody else is coming in for the first time. And it's like, it's so life-giving when somebody steps through the door and they're expecting a brewery and they come in through our hallway and they're looking around and they get to the end of the hallway and then they're in the tap room and they look around and they're like, oh, wow. Like I wasn't expecting this. I love this. I didn't know a brewery could look like this.
Yep.
Why have I not been told to come here earlier? Like all of that, that's a big, big reason for like why we do this.
Yeah. I tell you, I miss being a regular when my office was across the street. So, but I get up here as much as I can. Because I know the first time I walked in, I was like, oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So what's an insult that you received that you're especially proud of?
We put it on a t-shirt. And we put it on a koozie. So when Charlotte Axios did what Charlotte Axios does, and it was maybe 2 weeks before we opened, they ran a little blurb on a brewery comes to North End, right? And then I think it might have been the first comment in the thread, and word for word, it was, oh, great, another bullshit brewery serving trash beer. I was like, oh, that's so good. Oh, that's so good. Yeah. So our first anniversary, we made that a poster. We made that a t-shirt.
Yeah.
This year for the first time ever, we made koozies. So we put it on a koozie. Yeah. So it's, there's a ton of breweries in Charlotte. There's no question. I think there's room for breweries that are doing it for, the right reasons. And to me, that just means like you're doing it out of a love for the craft. And I think as long as you're doing it out of a love for the craft, then like you can't have too much culture, right? I mean,
yeah.
Nobody complains about like a new music hall popping up, or
no, we complain about the ones that have went away.
Exactly. So like, I think I think where I get upset the most is when people are projecting onto this space. Oh, they're just doing it like for the money or for out of some, I don't know, sense of recognition or like, they're just like putting walls up just so they can, make beer and just do like make a money grab or whatever. And I'm like, obviously you don't understand, what we're doing because you haven't been here and you haven't seen it. And like convinced that, if you do come out and you visit us and you see what we're doing, that, it'll be apparent like that breweries in our sense are meant to be cultural centers. A no admission cultural center, building community, inviting other creatives, artists. We've got a group of crafters that come see us every Wednesday. We're always having local musicians that we pay for. So like people get to experience local music with no admission fee. And that's the point, right? So people who get upset with another brewery are missing the point that a brewery is a no admission cultural center.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. I agree. And you can also tell some of those breweries if they're not in love with the craft. I think you can tell it by the way their staff acts as well.
Sure. Yeah, we run afoul of just lack of time, lack of staff. We tend to be just like so frantic with the stuff that we're trying to do on a daily basis that probably the mistake that we make the most is just like, we don't have enough time to really sit down as a staff to really go over like, this is what we're doing. Like, this is how, we should talk about this beer. Mm-hmm. And that's the next goal is getting to a place where, some of the frantic kind of dies down a little bit. And we can kind of reach our kind of final gear and really talking about staff, get a, what's the word? Like a unified kind of staff approach to the kind of like a
single vision, single message.
Yeah. Yep. So that's like the criticism that people have lodged against us. Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, because we're oh my God, try squeezing 60 hours into 40, and yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah, awesome. So tell me about the 3 most influential people in your life, how they impacted you.
Well, I guess you got to start with parents, right?
Sometime.
So, I mean, I get, and again, like it's everybody's story, right? You know what you've been exposed to. I grew up in not extreme poverty, but like we didn't have any money, and grew up in the church. If you want it, you got to make it, right? So, I mean, coming up, like mom was making all our clothes, like no exaggeration. And when we moved to the west side of the lake back in the early 90s, all the home renovations that we did to make room for us kids, we did. Like we put walls up and we put the plumbing in and we put the electricity in. And I hated every minute of it. But it's what you did. That was normal. When your car stopped working, you open the hood, and if you had to, you drag the engine out of it. That's what you did. And the like the biggest kind of fear that I had to conquer early on was that I could not only start a project, but I could actually finish a project, and I could push through that middle portion of, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what the next step is. I'm scared I'm going to ruin something, and pushing through to the other side to, I can actually replace, front wheel axles on my car, and I can actually renovate my own bathroom, and I can actually build a brewery. So that's, there's a direct line from the DIY ethos that my parents instilled in me, and this project, which, I mean, that comes from like my mom's mom is the first generation off the farm, so we're 3 generations from subsistence farmers in Kentucky, where if you wanted it, you grew it. you know, and I don't know, it's so deep set. I have this really kind of mixed experience with consumerism. You know, it's like, if you want it, you make it. You know, what you want is not what you can buy.
Right. But what you can make, you can sell.
But what you make, you can sell. And if it's good and it resonates with people, then it'll be good. To put it another way, my brother-in-law would say, it's experiences over things. So like whenever we'd get together for like Christmas or whatever, talking about what people are going to like give each other for Christmas. And he's like, I don't want anything. If you want to bring me a bottle of whiskey, I will be happy to accept it. But I'm not going to keep it to myself.
You sound like me.
Whiskey is for sharing.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, that kind of awakened me to like I feel the same way. And you just explained to me why. Whenever anybody asks me what I want for Christmas, I'm like, to not travel anywhere. Don't put me in a car. Don't put me in a plane.
Mm-hmm.
I want to eat all the things I want to eat. I want to drink all the things I want to drink. And I want to just hang out and share time. And that's the spirit of this place.
Yeah.
You know, what you're buying is the beer, right? Because this place doesn't exist without money. We have rent to pay.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if we didn't have rent to pay. But I mean, that's your admission ticket to, you know, being in here with the people you want to share time and space with. Mm-hmm. And that is the point.
Nice. So what's a common myth about your job?
Well, I mean, lots of people ask me if I'm the brewmaster. And Ryan hated that term. He's like, never say that about me ever again. Okay. But yeah, the idea that what got me here is what I continue to do. Like, no, I don't. We talk about beer. We talk about what beer to make and in loose terms, kind of the flavor kind of milestones that it should meet. And then after that, like I'm hands off. Like I bought this brew system and we tested it when it was still in place in Colorado, just to really kind of prove that it could make good beer. Mm-hmm. And then after that, Ryan figured out like how to actually use it. And he picked it up. Again, like that first batch of beer he made was fantastic. I agree. So yeah, I don't make the beer. And then the follow up is, well, does it make you sad that like you did this out of a passion for craft beer and you came to this by way of home brewing and like getting into the details of recipe making and trial and error? And I'm like, actually, no, that like at the time I thought that was going to be hard to let go of. But it, everything is seasonal. And so, and I'm infinitely flexible where, in the design of this place, I took a deep dive into kind of the history of graphics arts, and really paid attention to, again, like the things that really caught my eye and was like, either things that like I thought were like really cool designs or really interesting ways to design that, again, like aren't used anymore. Mm-hmm. Try to like infuse our brand with some of those older kind of touches. And that's how our logo came about. It's designed to be old and new at the same time. It's absolutely cluttered for modern sensibilities, where, a lot of brewery logos are like one simple shape in a circle. And we intentionally were like, no, like it needs to be something older, classical, a little bit jumbled. Because again, like that's what we're doing here.
Right.
So my creative endeavor pretty quickly went from homebrewing to architecture when we were designing the space, to interior design when we were trying to lay out like what the kind of layout of this place was going to be, to art curation for whatever was going to be on the walls, to again, like convincing Ryan and myself that I could be our arts department. So like at the time words fall short in art, right? So all you can do is kind of demonstrate, this is what we're trying to do. And it looks something like this. And you can just kind of scribble something out and hand it over to a graphic designer. And you hope that, they're putting emphasis on the right things, and they're kind of understanding your sensibilities. And there's a lot of like trust and faith and a lot of iteration, working with other graphics designers. And so back to our core logo, that's how that came about. I was like, it started off with, let's explore some ideas. Like this is kind of broad brush strokes, kind of the themes and concepts that we're thinking about. And, they would give me kind of this concrete kind of emblem or mascot. And I'm like, it's too small. Like it doesn't, like that won't carry like the ideas. Like it needs to be bigger and more abstract. And I'm thinking something more like this. And, they would kind of rework it and send it back. And I was like, okay, well, I like this, but I don't like this. And so I'd like pop it into my, I use GIMP because GIMP is free and you have to pay for Photoshop. So I put it in GIMP and I would like blast it apart. And like, these are the things I like. The other area, kind of should look like this. And I'd send it back over. And then, after once we got to that kind of communication, it actually happened faster. But, a few iterations later, and I end up with like our logo, and I was like, that's it. There it is.
Nice.
And so we did the same thing with the first beer labels. We were working with a tattoo artist, and we'd kind of do a bunch of hand waving in a meeting and be like, the beer is like this and the flavors are like this, and I'm thinking imagery like this. And like, she would take all the notes and then she would come back. I was like, yeah, I mean, this is good. Don't like this, rework this, shoot it back over. But then always, whatever her final product was like, okay, well, we have the art done and now I need to, do the layout. So I was always the one doing the layout. So I would take the art that was created and I would do the layout, and that'd be the label, and, done deal. Until there was, the first label that I designed, I was laying it out and I was like, this is what it should look like. This is this. And I ended up like creating the entire label. And in hindsight, it was not great as it happens. But it was the proof to me like, I can do this. So like I can kind of streamline the process, and like I can take this kind of passion for arts and graphic design, and like the eye that I have and have trained for the designs that I appreciate, the designs that I'm drawn to, and I can actually like make a whole label I can be the arts department. It's like, cool. This is going to be what it is from here on out. And, that's so when people ask, I say, well, yeah, it used to be the beer was the art, and now the art is the art.
Awesome. So, what is the biggest challenge you're facing right now in your business, and how are you tackling that?
Biggest challenge is just growing, and it's not a new problem, right? We started up a little over 3 years ago in a crowded field. So, kicking and screaming for awareness and attention. And there's the period of newness where like you're brand new and everybody like kind of comes by and they're kind of like trying you out and like, is this for me? Or cynically, is this a place where I can be seen? And then they realize that it's not and they don't come back. And so I guess our second year, I would describe it as like, we're looking for our tribe. We're looking for the people that resonate with the message that we're trying to send. The word of the year for this past year was opportunity, where we're looking for stronger, more intentional partnerships, distribution partnerships, sales opportunities, partnerships with larger organizations that can give us better visibility on different platforms. That's the push. That's nice. That's the way that we grow, and that's my main focus. So I'm trying to drive traffic in the tap room with a keen eye on the beer variety and quality, and also the best events that we can afford, budgets being small,
right?
As a consequence of our location being fringe.
Yeah.
Like we're not on a main street. You can't just like be walking in the area and happen to stumble in, right? You come here out of the intention to come here.
Right.
Which is another kind of, I wouldn't say it's a unique challenge, but it is a challenge.
Right.
So, driving the energy in the tap room, and then also at the same time, trying to expand as much as we can, as kind of efficiently as we can outside these walls. So we hit 2 grocery chains this last year. So we're
nice.
in Lowe's Foods, we're in Harris Teeter. Small amounts of stores, handful of stores, but it's a place to start.
Right.
Because I mean, we took, a ton of lessons just from like being in a can on a shelf. Right. So you don't know what you don't know until you go out and you try to, experiment and get that feedback. So
right.
We're still right now kind of working through the lessons that we learned from sitting on a grocery shelf.
Yeah.
And we've had a ton of success with our early adopters in the specialty craft beer bottle shops. And we're, deeply appreciative of the risks that they took, just sampling our stuff in front of their customers. And then we're trying to grow outwards from that,
right.
Into kind of restaurants, which, they require a different kind of production standard. If you run out of your core beer, it's hard to get on the menu, and then it's harder even still to get taken off the menu to get put back on the menu again.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the issues. Those are the problems that we're actively trying to solve now.
Right.
For these are the ways that we grow, out into the world.
Right. Yeah, and I guess you would consider this more of an industrial area, so you don't have a whole lot of residential around you.
No, and that was. I still put a large amount of that at the feet of the pandemic. When we were looking for a space, I was reading all of the Urban Institute's studies about, the technology corridor, which I think now they call it a corridor of opportunity, up here on the north side.
Mm-hmm.
And Camp North End had just started. And the plans for rail and, the developments that would kind of bring along. And, every passing year where, we had an agreement with the landlord that we were going to lease the space, but we hadn't signed the papers yet.
Mm-hmm.
Every year that went by, we're like, the neighborhood is getting like stronger by the year, so that when we get here, when we land, like we're going to be, part of this kind of growth surge,
right?
That's going to come to this area. And then the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
So, the projects that had already been kind of financed and started, thinking about Camp North End,
mm-hmm.
They were in phase one and they continued through phase one. But it took, until close to the end of the pandemic, I think even before the Pine 25 apartments, I think really started getting going.
Right.
I don't think those places were there in 2020. So, in my mind, the pandemic really kind of cooled the growth that was supposed to be building up around us as we were growing.
Yes.
Initially I'm going to estimate probably about 3 years.
Right.
So we've been, not to say we've been going it alone, but it wasn't supposed to be this lonely when we looked at this location. So it's the good news is like the development is slowly coming.
Mm-hmm.
And here I have to be careful about expressing what the intention is. Because again, it's part of our founding principles of like Charlotte tears everything down. And so the development at the cost of residents who are already here is not what we want. Development that tears down existing residential is not what we want. But Charlotte's a growing city. There's not enough land for everybody to live in a house.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that's a reasonable goal. We need dense housing.
Yep.
And now I'm going to preach a little bit. Where I think most developers are making the mistake is making everything a luxury apartment.
Mm, yes.
I think there's room for luxury apartments, but come on, man, up here, people just want a place to live.
Right.
And that's what we, anybody who asks, we need more housing and we need more affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know, I think the answer is as simple as it's the right thing to do.
Right.
So that's the direction that I hope to see up here in North End. I want that to be one of the key differentiators. North End to South End is, South End, it's a lot of new, shiny, expensive. North End has this opportunity to be more kind of comfortable, everyman, affordable, So the hope is, they have started building, and I hope that developers are, aware of the
what is really needed.
What is really needed. Just the stress that this rent is causing.
Yeah. Alrighty. Let's see. What is one piece of advice that you give someone wanting to start out in the craft beer industry? Don't do it.
Man. It's probably goes something along the lines of it is better, safer, maybe cheaper to be a big fish in a small pond. We chose the opposite.
Right.
We are a small fish in a large pond. And, it depends on what your goals are, we wanted to be close to Uptown because we wanted to be centrally located, and we wanted to be a player in the Charlotte brew scene, right? I'm 100% convinced that we would have a more comfortable existence if we had set up in a suburb.
Yep.
There's not a doubt in my mind.
Right.
So we picked this battle.
All right. What's one thing about your job or in this field that almost no one agrees with you about?
Oh, I got it. To put donuts in a dark lager.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't. The story there, Ryan was making an imperial stout to put in barrels. That might have been the first imperial stout that we did that turned into Ocean of Pavement.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which I still miss. That was a damn good beer.
Yeah, it was. It's very good.
And so he did, that took 2 turns. So he did, the first turn, mashed out, then he did the second turn, and then shoved that to the fermenters. And then he, with the remaining grain and the mash done, wanted to do just like a table beer, dark table beer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hey, it'd be cool if we put donuts in that. And I guess he didn't hear me. Because I think he agreed to something he didn't know he was agreeing to. Because I took whatever he said and I went immediately to Krispy Kreme, and I got 60. How many boxes did I get? I got 7 or 8 dozen donuts, and I walked in the door with this huge just grin on my face, and I was like, I got the donuts. He's like, for what? to put in the beer. And so I don't know, I guess he didn't, maybe we didn't have the relationship at the time that he just he was like, all right, and just tossed them in. And so ever since then, I'll be like, we're gonna that donut. So to put a period on that sentence, that beer turned into the Locust Years, which is a Vigilantes of Love reference for any of you Bill Maloney fans out there. Also a morbid self-deprecating name, which is on brand for us. So ever since then, I keep asking for, hey, when are we going to do another donut dark lager? And it's it's not going to happen. I'm like, stop asking. It's not going to happen.
Oh, that's good. So what's your favorite productivity hack?
Caffeine. Caffeine. I say we're fueled on caffeine and panic. I made a Facebook post a couple years ago a couple months ago about, of all of the drugs that people take, my drug of choice is panic. So nothing quite puts things into perspective and prioritizes like, I guess a better way to say it is a deadline. Mm-hmm. Like I'm deadline driven.
Yeah.
Like how long do I have to think about this? And this goes back to the productive procrastination.
Right.
So it's not that I'm putting it off. It's that, if you ask me right now, it's not going to be my best answer. If you ask me, if you let me think about it and I can come back to you in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days, I'm going to have a better answer because I'm going to have put more thought into it.
Right.
And then what it takes is that, that's due today. And just sit down and like knock it out.
Cool. So what's a underrated tool that's indispensable for your job?
Underrated? I don't know. Like everybody uses it, but like social media is everybody's secret weapon. Mm-hmm. So I'm also our social media person. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's bad. Cause I have to do it in the time that I have. So, the best use of social media, and here's where I fall short, and that's again a product of like not really having the time mm-hmm. for it, is when I can have the time and space to be more kind of intentional about what I share about who we are, what our story is, what we're doing, and try to kind of make those connections mm-hmm. Instead of just, here's a flyer, this is what we're doing this week. So if I had more time, I would be more kind of open and accessible and revealing kind of in those encounters. And to kind of better answer the question, I think that's a trap that we all kind of fall into. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's when we can get it right, I think that's a differentiator for us where we can switch people on just in that kind of contact.
Right. Okay. This being a alcohol industry, what kind of safeguards do you have in place to make sure that you and your employees don't become dependent on the product?
That's a good question. Like nothing, like what's the word I'm looking for? Like we don't have any like protocol. Mm-hmm. Except for the team is so small and we see each other like pretty much every day.
Right.
And I feel like I'm pretty decent at kind of gauging somebody's mm-hmm. energy.
Sometimes you can just tell.
Yeah. And I don't know, again, like we try for open communication. Again, like when we have the time. Mm-hmm. So we're not always successful, but I don't know. That's a good question. I think, honestly, the bigger pitfall is not alcohol abuse, it's burnout. Mm. Yeah. That's taken a couple of our folks.
Yeah.
And that's a product of, again, like being so small and
right.
like being in a pressure cooker and like low budgets and all that kind of thing. That's the bigger danger. Which, I mean, one can lead to the other, but it's a small team, it's an open team. I would like to think that we'd be able to get in front of a problem like that.
Yeah. Very good. So, what are the 3 best beers you've had so far this year? This year's almost over.
Yeah, my first answer, easy answer, It's got to be the wet hop beer that Diedrich made this August. It was called Relic, and it was he did it out of his love for Sierra Nevada, which I also resonate with.
Mm-hmm.
And
as do I.
So it was like a traditional, more kind of English style pale ale, with, I'm gonna say, whole leaf Cascades. I didn't make the beer. But it was so good because like the malt bill that he used had like some of those really like kind of almost like Vienna lager, like light caramel kinds of notes. And then when that beer like first came out of the tanks and was on tap, you could still get those like grassy notes, like earthy straw, just raw hop notes out of that beer. And it also aged really well. Like the last couple of pours were still like really, really good. So
nice.
Whenever I was in here, I run trivia nights on Wednesdays, and trivia goes best with beer. So like whenever I was reaching for a beer, I was like, oh, I got to get Relic before it's gone. Super, super good beer. Maybe number 2 is also a beer that Diedrich did. And that one was it was in collaboration with Proximity Brewing, who just popped up in Durham.
Okay.
And it was meant to be a Baltic porter, and our mash efficiency did something weird, so it didn't quite get to Baltic porter territory, which nobody was mad at, because it was, a baby Baltic porter, sometimes also referred to as just a porter. But porter in the way of like, it's got those kind of raisiny, slightly kind of chocolate, but more kind of mid-sweet, like big mouthfeel kind of porter. So good. That was the knowing. That was the one that I sent out with the meme of Reverend Rob, for any of you charlatans that remember Apple Auto Sales.
Yeah.
And then beer number 3. I think it's got to be the barrel age barley wine that Ryan brewed in collaboration last winter with Salute and Heist, and we dumped it into I think it was a 9-year-old Forester barrel.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Oh man, it's in bottles right now. We blended it just to make quantities. We did a tasting, and I just made the decision, like, we're going to put the 2 strongest barrel flavor barrels into the same batch. Mm-hmm. And so right now it's available as a bottle offering and on tap, and it's called Madness of the Light. And it's spicy from the 9-year-old bourbon barrel, tons of like wood character with the char that you can get, and it's really nicely balanced out with the barley wine sweetness and gravity, and the kind of the spice that comes along with the barley wine. It's so good.
I know what I'm getting next.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any question that I didn't ask that you wish I had have asked?
I think that covers everything. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
All right. So last question is, where can everyone find you online?
Yeah. Shameless plug time. Yeah. So our biggest presence is on Instagram, and we try at every turn to try to drive people to Instagram, because that's where I'm most active. We, by proximity, everything we post on Instagram goes also to Facebook, but I don't like Facebook.
Yeah. Not many do.
We have a new website as of this year. So if you go to our website, they've done a really nice job of kind of showing what the kind of the experience and atmosphere of this place is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has done wonders for, getting people who are curious about what we are to actually come here and experience it. So we've got the website going, and we're here. We're up here in North End. So the hard address is 413 Dalton. The easy address is 1100 North Graham, and we are right between the Music Factory and Camp North End on Graham Street.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode.
Hey, thanks for giving me time and space to ramble.
Yeah, absolutely. Loved it. And we will be back with another episode very soon. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Behind the Beer. Please rate and review us on your favorite listening platform. Subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/@behindthebeer. If you would like to be a guest on Behind the Beer, email us at behindthebeer2020@gmail.com. Behind the Beer is produced by BWM Productions.